everyone, we are Acrovan Adventures. I'm Jessie and this is Chris, and we live on our self-converted school bus.
We have a 2003 International diesel school bus. It has a lot of goodies, including a 60-gallon fresh water tank, a 30-gallon gray water tank, 250 amp hours of lithium battery, and about 400 watts of solar on the roof. We also have a back deck that holds a motorcycle and a full-length roof deck.
We have been on the road for about 2 years now. The first year of van life we lived in our self-converted ProMaster, but after about a year on the road there was a few things we realized that we really missed. The first being a couch. We really missed just having a place to lay down and relax after work. Second is a good place for us to work since we do still work full-time on the road. And last but not least, we both really missed having Chris's motorcycle to be able to ditch our rig and cruise around.
So with that, let's take a look inside and we'll show you around.
Alright, welcome to our school bus. This is our entryway. We have a shoe rack down here, so we can easily just take off our shoes and throw them in. It's more or less just a hole that we built and a cargo net with some hooks. We also installed hooks all along the top of this frame to hold our jackets, our hats, and some miscellaneous items. We did the same on this side. We installed a couple hooks so that we can have our hiking backpacks. Since we do go hiking a lot, we wanted to have them easily accessible. So in the school bus, there is kind of a wasted space up here. It's just a whole lot of nothing. Chris built this wood frame so that we would have storage for our shoes, and we built a little storage on top, which my intention was to make it like a cute little plant shelf, maybe a picture frame or something, and it has turned into our junk drawer. So there's that. But we do have a little mount for our backup cam, and this has been a game changer for the school bus because, as you can imagine, it's massive and very hard to drive. So we have the monitor mounted here so you can easily see it from the driver's seat. And up here we have our scratch off national park and state map, and we scratch them off only the ones that we have been to together. And as you can see, the last 2 years on the road in van life have really enabled us to go all over the US and see lots of national parks. I think up to this point we've hit 45 states and 42 national parks or something crazy, so it's wild. This comes in the bus already. It's again a miscellaneous storage and it just has mostly this bag is our receipts of our entire build and then extra junk, so nothing to see there. And then I requested a bookshelf, so Chris built me this wonderful bookshelf, and then again just a little basket because we needed to use up some space, and it has some more random stuff in it like headlamps and bear spray. So I think the only thing I haven't talked about in this space yet is this little space up here. So we wanted this to be cute and functional. We added a whole nother coat rack, but we never ever use it because all the things that we hang on here get in the way of this locking mechanism for our door, which is kind of janky, but it works. So we close the door. We have a regular lock, but the way we designed our door, it still has a whole lot of wiggle room. So we added this crossbar that we can add some pins to, and then that holds it in place a lot better. But we need to be able to take this out because we also use this on the outside to hold the door closed, but we can show you that on the outside later. So even with these eye hooks through here, it still moves a little bit. So we've also had to add some bungee cords. So we have one that hooks to here and then two on the bottom. We want to redo this whole door, but we'll get there eventually.
As we mentioned, this is a 2003 International school bus. It has 8 windows. It is a big diesel engine, and as we were shopping for school buses, we learned that there is quite a bit to know about different buses and different engine types. This Skoolie has the DT466 engine. It's an inline 6-cylinder turbo. That's kind of the highly sought after bus engine configuration for Skoolie life because they're super reliable, they're pretty fast as far as buses go, and you don't really have to worry about them breaking down ever. We also purchased this bus from Texas, so we really didn't have to worry about rust compared to buying a bus from a northern state. One thing to know about driving a school bus is that some, like this one, have air brakes, which are a lot more sensitive. So there were definitely a few times where Jesse kind of went flying forward while I tried to learn how to drive it, but over time you get a lot better. This bus is 28 feet long to the back. It's 32 feet long if you include the back deck. It weighed about 13,000 pounds when we took everything out and it was completely empty, but it can actually handle up to 26,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating, which means we can put a lot of stuff in it before it becomes any sort of risk or breaks any rules. This bus has all sorts of lights and buttons and different things. We had to learn what they meant. The first thing is that our seat actually goes up and down with air. This bus, being so fancy, does have cruise control, which is a total game changer when we're driving on the highway, but it has a max speed of 65 miles per hour. That's to keep the engine safe so it doesn't rev too high if you're trying to go super fast. The school bus does not have any luxury features such as a radio, or air conditioning, or heating, or cup holders. So for our radio, we use this fancy Bluetooth speaker. We hook our phone up to it and it works totally fine, except the bus is really loud, so we do kind of have to crank the volume up. For air conditioning, we have this luxury school bus fan, probably something you're familiar with from your childhood when you rode the bus to and from school. And for cup holders, we did buy these magnetic cup holders from Amazon or O'Reilly Auto Parts, and they just stick to anywhere that is metal on your bus. So these are something we totally recommend throughout your bus if you have metal everywhere like we do. There's a lot of random buttons on this side. Most of them we don't use. They went to things like the AC units and the heater that did come originally in the bus. We have since removed those. We also used to have a wheelchair accessible lift in the back, so there's a switch for that, which we no longer use. What we can still do, however, is turn on the outside flashers, yellow or red. We don't stop traffic when we're driving down the street. That would be illegal. But we do have the lights if we want to throw a party or have some fun outside. Also important to note, we do have a fire extinguisher accessible right at my feet here. It's always important to make sure you're keeping safety in mind when you build any sort of bus or van or other rig. So I think that's really all we have to note in the front. Let's take a look at the good stuff in the back. Now we're going to talk about our workstation. Jesse and I still both work full-time, and it was really important for us to have a space to do that. One thing we found in van life is that we really didn't have enough space to work comfortably without squeezing past each other or just getting in each other's way. So during our bus build, we decided to incorporate a full workspace where we could be comfortable working next to each other for 8 hours a day. We built this custom 2-part sit-stand work desk with an incorporated piano bench. Because I play the piano, I wanted to make sure that we could bring it with us and that it was easily accessible. All of our countertops throughout the build are alder butcher block. We did decide to seal them with polyurethane so that we didn't have to worry about reapplying oil or butcher block's wax all the time like we did in the van. Each side of this sit-stand desk has 2 AC outlets as well as 2 USB outlets. And each independent half can be raised up and set to a different height so that Jesse and I can both work either sitting or standing, and we don't have to agree on which setting it's on. So if I move our cup holder out of the way and our flashlight out of the way, you'll see that I can just lift this up. There is a little stop on the bottom, and then it can stay here and I can work standing or keep it lowered and work sitting. Nice. Sometimes it does catch our curtains, but we can just remove them, they're magnetic, and put them anywhere we want. As I mentioned, underneath the workstation there is a piano. All I have to do is move the 2 chairs back and out of the way. The piano is on drawer slides, so I just have to extend the piano out in front of the desk, and then I can set up a little music stand on the top of the desk, and then we are good to go. You probably can see here that the desk is a little uneven at this point in time. Living on the road, you go through a lot of different climate and humidity changes. This desk has a lot of moving parts, so I'm not super surprised, but we think that just a little bit of warpage and twisting happened on this desk, and therefore it is no longer perfectly flush. So, little inconveniences, but it's a bus, what are you going to do? If you're curious how we built this, you can check out an entire video on just this desk in our build series, which covers how we built the entire bus. We'll link that in our description below. We don't have any dedicated storage for our laptops or our work stuff, but we just keep them in our backpacks and store the backpacks underneath the desk. That works fine for us. We also have a bin that fits underneath the desk perfectly between the 2 legs. That holds all of our phone cables and wires and different things that we want out of the way, but somewhat accessible because we do use them pretty frequently.
I get to sit and listen to him, which I love to do. It's one of my favorite things. And we never would have been able to do this in the van because the van was not big enough for both of us to be in the same space at once. So having a living space was very important to us. As I mentioned before, having a couch is great to be able to lounge after work. We also wanted to be able to host people, so now we have plenty of seating. We have our nice big couch, 2 chairs at our desk, and 2 chairs in the kitchen, which we will get to shortly. But this couch is a cheap one from Amazon. As you can see, it's not super sturdy, but it does the job. It's a futon, so it'll fold down into a bed. So if we have someone staying with us, they at least have a space. Above the couch, we have a shelf. All of our shelves in the bus have these L shelf brackets. So we drilled them directly into the side of the metal of our school bus, and then they just sit up like a little L and support our shelf. We also added a little lip on our shelf, and believe it or not, this 1-inch lip does keep everything on the shelf when we're driving. So we don't have to move anything, even these books, which I am completely shocked about. They have never fallen off, even when we've gone over some big bumps. Our plates will sometimes fall, which will show you what that setup looks like, but these books have never fallen. We wanted to keep a natural wood look with their shelves, so we just got these common board from Home Depot. They're relatively cheap, and we stained them a natural stain. So that helps to blend in with the other countertops, the other butcher block that we have in our build. I want to quickly mention our curtains. A lot of people ask us about these. They are random curtains from, again, Amazon, and I was too lazy to sew them, so I literally just fold them to the right height, and then we add these magnet clips, and we can magnet them on to the bottom of our shelf because these shelf brackets are metal, and we also added a strip of metal all the way across the bottom so that we could magnet our curtains. So when I want to close them up, I just move them and voila. Nice and easy. We do store stuff underneath our futon. We added blocks to raise the futon a little bit because we have a workout bench underneath here and we wanted to give ourselves a little bit more space. So underneath here is just turned into storage, but you have to use every space that you can in a tiny home. We already knew this from our van build, that everything gets dirty, so don't buy anything nice. Yet we still bought a cream colored futon, which is why we keep this nice blanket on here at all times because there's already a big stain on it. The bus is registered as an RV now, so this is where I sit while Chris is driving. I think that is about it with this space. Moving on. In this build, we decided to focus on an open layout. We have no closed cabinets, we have one continuous countertop. This whole piece in the kitchen is almost 10 feet, plus the 6 feet of our desk, so we have a lot of counter space in this build. One thing that I didn't even think about with the school bus was having all of these windows. It brings in a lot of natural light, again, to really brighten the space. Everything's so light and open, with all the windows, it makes this space feel even bigger than it already is, which is way more than we had in the van. Our van was about 80 square feet, and our bus is about 150 to 160 square feet. So we almost doubled our square footage, which is huge when you have a tiny space. So we tried to make our space very functional. So having some open countertop next to the sink, but also next to our stovetop, and also being able to pivot and have a table that I can, serve guests was really important to us. We have a 4-burner stovetop in this build, which we don't love this one. We love having 4 burners, but this one in particular is not great because nothing is secured down. You can see I can just take off all of these pieces when we're driving. It jiggles a lot, it makes a lot of noise, so we have to take them off and put them on the ground. Kind of annoying. In the van we had an oven, but they're kind of expensive and not great quality, so we decided to not have an oven in this build, and it works perfectly fine. This stovetop runs off of propane, which we just have a regular propane tank on our back deck. So since we have a little more space in the bus, it was totally fine for us to put in a nice big sink, and we opted to go with a farmhouse sink to help really pull together some of the aesthetics of the build. This farmhouse sink, the way it's installed, is not exactly what you would see in a house because typically it overhangs a little bit, but this is very heavy and we wanted to make sure it was very supported while we were driving especially, so it is tucked back a little bit. But we love having the nice large sink and our faucet that you can move around. The stuff that we have on the counters, we have a nice fake plant, we have our little jar of utensils and a soap dispenser. We keep these on our countertop when we drive. As you can see, we just super glued some shelf liners to the bottom, and that's grippy enough to keep them in place. They do slide a tiny bit, but they don't ever fall off. We did try Velcro at first, but because the bottom of this indents a little bit, it wasn't able to stick very well unless we did like an entire ring of Velcro, which I didn't want because I wanted to be able to have one piece of Velcro that I could switch out, like a picture frame or this or a plant. So we opted to go with the shelf liners instead of Velcro. On our upper shelf, we have these little dowels that hold our plates and bowls. And again, these stay in place while we're driving. The plates are the only thing that does sometimes fall out if we do go over some really big bumps. That's pretty rare. We have just a little jar of our silverware and some of our cups up here. And then we have a cute little coffee basket that has our water heater, our coffee, our pour over, everything like that. And then last but not least, we have some nice clear jars. We have them filled with very random things like protein powder. This one has popcorn. One back here has tea. And this shelf is one continuous piece from the kitchen all the way over the desk on the bottom. It is about 14 feet long, which is massive. We decided to go with one continuous shelf piece because one, it is sturdier, and two, we are able to span the weight across all of these shelf brackets instead of just across two, for example, over the desk. We decided to make the shelf over the desk a little bit smaller since the countertop sticks out further than the desk to kind of make it look symmetrical and make it kind of fit the space. The one issue is that when we cut the shelf for the desk, we thought it would be enough space to put things on, but we didn't think about the curvature of the bus, so there really isn't a whole lot that fits there, which is why I bought a ton more of these little jars because it is literally the only thing that will fit. In this cabinet, we have 3 different shelves. The bottom shelf is a big bin with all of our pots and pans. This middle shelf, we have 2 different bins. One has all of our Tupperware, one is all of my personal stuff, and then 2 bins at top. One is just a bunch more utensils and cups, and then the other one is just a miscellaneous drawer with some of our bathroom stuff. Over here, this cabinet, we installed a lock on because we store all of our electronics in here. So when we leave the bus, we're able to store everything in here and lock it. We also have a nice little towel rack. Underneath the sink, we have a flip-down storage. Again, it's extra shower stuff. We have some cleaning supplies, nothing crazy there. And then our big fridge. This is a 95-liter fridge freezer combo from Iceco. So this half is the freezer half, this half is the fridge half. And I was hesitant at first to go with the cooler style fridge, but it's massive and I love it. Another good thing is that you can completely take off the lid, or you can open it from, either side. So if this was in a different space, we could open it from the other side too. One nice thing about this fridge is that if we wanted, we can make both zones a fridge or both zones a freezer. So you can choose which side is which and the temperatures for both. You can even turn one side off. So while we were gone for a week, we turned off the freezer side and kept the fridge side. So it's nice to have that versatility a little bit. In our van, we had a Walmart mini fridge that you just plugged into a regular house outlet. So it did take a lot of electricity, and that's the biggest reason why we switched to one of these DC chest fridges, because now it takes a whole lot less electricity and we don't have to worry about our battery level as much. It runs off of DC power, so we don't have to keep our inverter on all the time. The last thing I want to say about this fridge is that you can use it as a cooler. So we could completely unplug it and take it with us if we decided to go camping, car camping, or something like that. So that's a really cool feature. The tray that it's on, we used like 400 to 500 pound drawer slides, so it can handle quite a bit of weight. It's just made out of 3/4 inch plywood, pretty simple frame for the tray. These drawer slides also lock, so that while we're driving, the fridge doesn't come flying out. If you've seen our van tour, you know how narrow our hallway was and we had to squeeze by each other. But in the bus, we can stand next to each other and get by each other, no problem at all. So much more space.
So much space. Across from our kitchen, we installed this table so that Jesse and I could sit facing each other while we eat dinner or play games. We designed this table so that it was at least the size of a Catan board because we play that game all the time. Jesse and I are very competitive if you don't know that yet, but this is our designated Catan or game table. We built this by using leftover pieces of our butcher block countertop. This is actually 3 different pieces that we glued together and then fastened to each other so that it created one nice solid piece. After we sealed it, you can't even tell where the different pieces start and end, so I would say that's a pretty good job. We decided to put 3 legs on this table for a few reasons. The first is that by having only 1 leg on the outside, it's a lot easier for us to swing our legs in while we're sitting because this is still a little bit of a tight space. The second reason is that this table will actually fold up. So each leg have folding brackets on them which allow them to swing into each other, and by having 3, they won't conflict and they will go right past each other. The reason we designed this table to fold up is so that we could take this table, put it somewhere totally different, like outside or out of the way on our bed, and then use this space for something like working out, doing yoga, or any kind of leisurely activity where we want some more room in the bus. In our bus, we brought a Max Pro workout machine. It's totally awesome. It's this compact little device that folds up, gives us the weight resistance like up to 300 pounds. That allows me to get any kind of weight workout in that I want in a tiny, tiny space like this, which is a total game changer when you're living on the road. So we'll show you what that looks like. Our bus overall is about 8 feet wide, a total of 96 inches, and I'm 5'8". You can see there's quite a gap between my head and the roof, and we did not do any sort of roof raise on this bus. So this bus was purchased just like this, very tall, over 6 feet in the middle, and over 8 feet wide, which gives us tons of living space. We did add 1/2 inch of insulation underneath our vinyl plank flooring, as well as 3/4 inch plywood, which gives us a nice sturdy foundation. In the roof, you may notice it's still metal. Buses already come with a layer of fiberglass insulation between this piece of metal and the outer shell. So we do have some insulation, but the fact of the matter is that with all of these windows, if it's hot outside, it's going to be hot in the bus. And if it's cold outside, it's probably going to be cold in the bus. So it really didn't make a whole lot of sense for us to spend a ton of time, money, and energy to remove the entire roof, pack in a ton of insulation, or to do the same on the floor. We went through all the effort of insulating our van, and it was still cold in the winter and hot in the summer. So with the bus, not that much different, and we spent a whole lot less time and energy during our actual build. Keep moving back. You will notice on the floor we have this kind of weird dish. This is our Starlink, so we can get Wi-Fi anywhere that we have a clear view of the sky. We just take this thing, we put it on top of the roof, we plug it into our AC power, and then we are good to go. Since Jesse and I work full-time on the road, having reliable Wi-Fi and internet is super important to us. This gives us super reliable internet anywhere we can see the sky, and we love having it. We're both on video chats throughout the day, Zoom meetings, that kind of thing. Never had a problem with this. If you're in the desert, you're going to have no problems, but if you live in the forest, Starlink may not be for you. On this wall, Jesse incorporated a few more aesthetic touches, like another fake plant, because real plants die in the bus. She also incorporated this mirror, which helps open up the space even further. It has a nice wood outer frame, which incorporates into the wood design of the rest of the build. Hidden behind this plant, we do have our little electronics control center. For 40 bucks, we installed this water tank monitor kit. This is amazing. It tells us how much water we have in our freshwater tank as well as our wastewater tank. And it incorporates an on-off switch for our water pump. So if we run out of water, we can just quickly flip it off instead of having to run all the way to the outside and shut the pump off from the rear like we did in the van. Underneath that, we have our inverter controller here. This allows us to turn on and off our inverter when we are not using it. It doesn't really use a whole lot of electricity when we're not actively plugging something in, but it does use some, and when you're on the road, every little amp hour counts. Below that, we installed the Victron battery monitor. That is totally an essential for any van lifer or bus lifer. It tells you how much battery power you have so that you don't accidentally run out, and then everything in your fridge goes bad. Behind this wall is our main storage. This acts as our pantry, as a bit more clothing storage, as well as our dirty laundry and our trash can. On top here we have 2 wicker baskets. We keep our games in here, we keep different workout gear, and behind them we keep 2 yoga mats. We just have a little lip around the edge of the top of this, and that keeps them in place while we drive. This entire storage unit is just constructed out of 3/4 inch plywood. We Craig screwed them together. It's very sturdy and it's very simple to build. This top area is our entire dry food storage. Again, we have a simple little lip in the front. We did add 2 different shelves so that we could have some smaller stuff like cans below them, as well as different things on top. It gives us just a bit more storage space than we would have had if we didn't do that. The space is about 30 inches wide by 20 to 24 inches tall each shelf. That gives us tons of dry food storage space. If we have something that slides very easily on that top shelf and there's nothing in front of it preventing it from coming out, this is the one thing that will probably slide out while we go around corners. Otherwise, this is honestly pretty good even without a front wall on it. Moving down, we have his and hers different storage here. In mine, I keep things like sweatpants, extra sweatshirts, things that I don't use all the time, but I do want to be able to access without digging through all my other clothes. We had to make sure Jessie had a dedicated sweater storage area in the bus because she took up so much space in our van with just sweaters. Below this, we have a slide-out tray that has a laundry bin as well as a trash can on it. We have a very simple locking mechanism that locks it in place, and then we have this tiny little string that you can pull up and it unlatches it. In our last build, we did have a laundry space, but it was underneath our bench, which made it very hard to get to. We realized that your dirty laundry piles up pretty quickly, so we wanted to make sure it was very easily accessible to get to this. We can put our dirty laundry in here every day and actually stay on top of it. Similarly, we found in our first year living on the road that having a tiny trash can fills up very, very fast. For that reason, we decided to go with an actual kitchen-sized trash can, which allows us to pile our trash up and then take it out once instead of dumping a little bag every day. Aside from that, we do have a tiny bit of space in here which allows us to store things like laundry detergent, extra paper towels, and some other cleaning supplies. As Jessie mentioned, we really wanted to keep an open feel during this bus build, so this is our bathroom and our shower. Underneath this countertop, we have a slide-out bathroom tray, which has our Airhead composting toilet on it. Underneath that sliding tray, we have a shower pan. It's about 32 inches wide by 24 inches deep, and we just hang up curtains using some metal hooks, which allow us to take a shower inside the bus and tuck it away when it's not in use. In our first build, we were very adamant about having a fixed bathroom and shower with walls because we thought we were going to use it every day. If you watch a lot of these tours, you may hear people saying that you don't actually shower every day when you live on the road. We are here to tell you that is 100% true. Because we only have 60 gallons of fresh water on board, if we were showering every day, we would have to refill our water all the time. And 60 gallons is a lot of water for this type of build. We found on the road that it's not quite so easy to find water and fill it up anywhere that you're going, especially if you spend a lot of time out in the desert. People don't just have hoses everywhere that they want to give you to fill up your water tanks. So how does this work? We have these 2 cabinet doors that open up. We have a locking tray that we can slide out. The tray is on 500-pound drawer slides, so we can totally stand up on here without any problems. It does not break. It will not flip over. We do not weigh over 500 pounds yet. Just kidding. 500 pounds is more than enough. We decided to go with the Airhead composting toilet instead of the Nature's Head in this build, mainly because you don't have to open the solids compartment to remove the pee jug. That allows us to just take that out, dump it really quickly, which is something you do almost every day on the road without having to see our nasty number 2 compartment. We are putting together a full comparison video between the Airhead and the Nature's Head composting toilets, so be on the lookout for that on our channel. If you're unfamiliar with how composting toilets work, when you open it up, there are basically 2 different compartments, a solids tank and a wet fluids tank. It diverts the urine into a specific compartment that you can then take out. When you're ready to go number 2, you open a little trap door, do your business in there, put your toilet paper in, close the door, and then you can churn it up. Inside of the number 2 section, there's peat moss or coconut coir, which will help dry out your poop and facilitate the composting process. There's also a fan that vents to the external of the vehicle, which blows a nice breeze across there, again trying to help facilitate that drying out composting process. And because of the fan, you don't smell any of that inside of the rig. Believe us when we say, we've lived in here for a long time, you actually cannot smell anything. It's less gross than you think, and when you're ready to dump it out every couple weeks, it's really just like dumping out dirt. Believe it or not, when you dump the pee, it smells a whole lot worse. This is something that you do quite a bit more regularly, every day or 2 probably, and because it's natural, it's mostly water, you can dump it on any fully grown tree or out in nature as long as you're not near a river, a road, or somebody's house. To use the shower, again, we open up these doors, we slide out the toilet, and then this countertop lifts up. We can completely remove it out of the way, and then we're ready to hang up our curtains. So we're going to show you what that looks like. You can see in our shower, it is a little tight here, but it does the job. We have our shower head we can use. It does turn on and off, so we can pause the flow of water when we're not using it to save water from our tank. There is hot and cold on our nozzle down here, our mixer. Like any shower in a vehicle, it's important to make sure the vehicle is angled in a way that the water will actually drain out. If the vehicle's at a weird angle, the water might actually kind of pool up in the opposite end from the drain. You don't want that. We did put waterproof FRP board along all the walls of the base here, but there are some gaps where it could get through. For example, our mattress is right here as well. So we do have to be a little diligent to make sure that this waterproof lining is covering up all of our seams and anywhere that we don't want water to go. But it's an old bus and it does the job and it works pretty well for us. Good thing about having a metal bus, we're able to use magnets everywhere. We grabbed these heavy-duty magnet clips. They are super strong and they are more than strong enough to hold up 1 or 2 shower curtains. You can hear how loud that is. After we take a shower, these are damp obviously, so we have to leave them out hanging to dry. So either we kind of fold them up and press them against this back wall and then leave this countertop off for a little bit, or if we're going to be parked somewhere for a long time, we might actually take these magnets and just stick these to the outside of the bus to let them air dry. 2 more things about our bathroom. We did design this with enough leg room to make sure we wouldn't hit our knees while we're doing our business. And we incorporated this nice little toilet paper holder, so it's very easily accessible right in front of us.
As you can see, our bed is very tall. That is by design because we have a lot of space underneath the bed for storage, which we will show you in a moment. But that also means I need a way to get on the bed. And we just have a cheap little stool from Walmart and it works great. The main criteria for the height of the bed was that we would have enough space to sit up, but also a ton of space to store a few bins underneath the bed. This is a queen mattress, and it's a regular queen. It's not a short queen because the bus is wide enough to have a regular queen. And we have a 10-inch thick Zinus mattress, memory foam. Highly recommend. They are amazing. For our clothing storage, it's all tucked back here. I'm not normally a big throw pillow person, but I must say it's nice to have all the cushion when I'm working in bed. We have a him and hers section. So Chris has his half of the storage, I have half of mine. The bus is so wide that the mattress has some extra space before you hit the wall. So we have about a foot of space between the mattress and the wall. So this storage unit goes all the way down to our bed frame, which means we have some hidden storage for some clothes at the head of the bed that I will show you here. So we have these little bins you can pull out, And then we have our false bottom, which you lift up and pull out. And then we have a ton of these little packing cubes. They fit in vertically, so this is roughly how tall the shelf is, which is also how tall our mattress is. And we have 6 of these in there, so quite a bit of clothing storage. The false bottom is held up by just a little block of wood. There's 2 of them on the back to hold up this side, and then this one on the front to keep it from completely sliding forward, because this overhangs the ledge. And same throughout the whole rest of our build. We just added about an inch lip to the top of our storage unit because we have a few extra baskets for our socks and underwear. We both can have quite a bit of clothing, so we don't really have to sacrifice what we bring with us a whole lot. We do wear clothes more than once, but I think we only do laundry like once a month, so we really don't have to sacrifice too much. Only other thing in this space, back here we have a sticker wall that we started. We have a lot more stickers that we have not put up yet, but we do collect them from all the national parks that we go to, and even just some of the towns we've been in or the breweries we've been to, we collect stickers. And this seems like a really random piece of wood, and it is. It's because there was a massive hole right here that we covered up with just a 1/4-inch piece of plywood. But in that hole, this little area, we installed a cigarette outlet. This is a 12-volt outlet, so now I have a place to plug in my phone. So it works out great. So all throughout the bus, we have this string lights or rope lights. I'm not really sure what they're called. They are LED, they stick on, and it's 2 different strips. We have one going down each side, connected together, and then straight down into our electrical system, which Chris will show you. But they were pretty cheap on Amazon. They're mood lighting, so you can dim them down, you can change the colors, you can go to like party mode, so it's like strobe lights. It's pretty wild, but these are great. So if we are in public and we don't want people to know that we're in the bus, we keep the lights really dim. When we bought the lights, I just wanted to see what they would look like or if this would be the right spot for them. So I, again, use our nice little magnet clips and put them all across the top with the intention of removing the magnet clip and sticking them on the metal, but then we ended up just leaving them, and it works fine. The lights are bright enough for us at night, but they don't get super bright, so we also have some like $1 magnetic lights, which they look like this. And again, we keep them anywhere. We kept a few down the middle if we need a little extra light. For example, if I'm doing dishes, I'll just stick it right above the dish space. They're dead at the moment.
They're all dead.
Looks like they're all dead, so I can't show you, but it's a light. I think you know how it works. In our Skoolie, we have 2 emergency exits, one right here above the bed, one up in the front. You just push them up. This one you can't open all the way because we have our solar panels covering it, but we intentionally left enough space that we could open it this amount because this lets in nice breeze and some more light. The other one you can open up all the way, and that's how we get on our roof, which we will show you in a moment.
Under our bed, we have a lot of room for storage, as well as all of our electrical setup and our freshwater tank. Because we have so much room, we have quite a lot of stuff here. We've chosen just to store things in normal storage bins. This makes it really easy for us to take things out, put them away, and pack them up and then load the bus up whenever we want. We decided to leave the entire under the bed storage area open, so we just grab different storage bins, stack them on top of each other, and then push them in here. That way, if we decide to take things out or switch what we have in there, it's not confined to one specific shape and size. So we don't scratch our floor. On the bottom of each bin, we put little felt squares. We put those same felt squares underneath all of our furniture in the bus so that we tried to keep our floor as good as we could. First thing I want to point out, right here we have our heater. It's a diesel heater. We just bought it off Amazon. It's quite a bit cheaper than some of the other models like the Propane or the Wabasso heater. I have to say this thing works totally great. It comes with its own little diesel tank. We have that separate from our bus's diesel tank so that we don't accidentally use up all of our fuel. It comes with a little switch here that we can control the temperature. It also has a remote on-off switch, so if this was a little bit further away from our bed, we could turn it on from a distance. We chose to put it right here because it's close to our bed, which is where it's going to get the coldest at night while we're sleeping. Also because the heater unit itself is under the bed, tucked away, out of sight. That allows us to potentially change the layout in our bus in the future. We didn't want to put the heater itself through the floor anywhere that would be very visible all the time. We also installed a few 12-volt outlets on each side of the bed. This is so that we could plug our phones in to charge them at night, as well as a couple of little 12-volt fans that we use as our air conditioning when it gets hot in here. So now let's take a look at what we have in all these bins and then show you the entire space. First bin, we have a separate duffel bag because we do a lot of traveling outside of the bus. And this is our entire home gym, our Max Pro, like we talked about earlier. It stays all in this little bag, it's totally great. In this bin we have all of our winter clothing, so it stays out of the way during the summer months, and then when it gets cold outside we start to grab this stuff a little bit more regularly. Have a couple of random things like our fan, which keeps us cold in the summer. This is a backpack cooler, but apparently is storing just random extra bags for some reason. Underneath that we have the top of our composting toilet if we were to choose to completely close off the number 2 compartment. And then this is a bin of all of our nice dress clothing. We've been going to a lot of weddings lately, so we do have to look nice once in a while. So we have suits and Jesse's dresses in here, that kind of thing. We have a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, and this entire bin is our overnight camping gear. We recently came back from a trip to Yosemite where we hiked Half Dome, so having this and being able to deploy from the bus is really important for us. In here it just has things like our tent, our bear box, some camp stoves, that kind of stuff. We have some more stuff under here, but we're going to show you that from the other side. Because this bus used to have a lift in the back, we have a second door in the back that allows us to get to our storage compartment a whole lot easier than digging through everything from the front inside the bus. We try to keep things out here that we use very regularly, like our camp chairs and some of our motorcycle gear. So we have a tank bag, a bin full of our helmets and motorcycle jackets, some saddlebags, more motorcycle jackets, and then a couple of other things. So we have my sleeping bag.
Hey.
We have a bin of our hoses, some disc golf discs, and our gray water dumping tube. I have a toolbox in case we need to repair anything on the road. An outdoor rug so we can set up a nice outside living area. And finally, our clear source water filter that we use before we ever put any water into our freshwater tank. We could mount this permanently outside, but we didn't really have a great spot to do that, so we ended up storing it inside. We take it out before we use it. This thing is totally great, and we decided to use the filter every time we fill up our tank, which means that all the water that ever goes into our system is already cleaned and purified. We do not have another filter in line inside the bus, but because we're filtering everything that goes in, we know that all the water throughout our system is safe to drink. Now that you've watched us unload all of that crap, you can see just how much stuff we can really fit underneath the bed of our bus. You'll see that we still have even more stuff under here. This is the tank to our diesel heater. We store it inside the bus, again, because there's not really a better spot to put it outside. We tried to put it close to this door so that it would be easy to fill up when we're at a gas station. We do have some extra hooks back here so we can hang backpacks. We even have one overnight bag tucked away over here. And around the corner, we have a hose. This hose we can attach right under the bed here, use it to spray off our dirty boots or our motorcycle or really anything else that we need to spray outside. Whoops. It's really easy, simple to use. You just push it on there, you can push it, twist it off, and then you're good to go. While we're up here, you'll also notice our water fill port. This is just PVC. We use it to go into our fresh water tank, and to unscrew it, we have to manually unscrew this thing. We can stick a hose in there and then fill it up from here. Beneath the fill port, our water system has to have an air outlet exhaust so that as you fill up with water or remove water, air can come in and out. That's what this is here. We just used a long 1/2 inch flexible tube to a PVC thing here, and we put a little bug no-see-um mesh over it. That makes sure no bugs get in there. We did not vent this to the total outside of the vehicle, but because the hose is so long, we don't really have to worry about the water splashing and then coming out into the bus. The last thing to note over here is the vent from our airhead composting toilet. So our air vents through this tube and out the bottom of the bus. Next to that is our gray water drain. So you'll see this PVC right here. This goes directly into our gray water tank, which is mounted underneath the bus right below the floor here. Let's hop on up and take a look at our electrical and water system. Behind all these wooden boards is our entire electrical, heating, and plumbing system. We tried to lay it out such that it was tucked out of the way far enough for us to store plenty of things under our bed, but so that it was accessible enough if we ever have to perform maintenance or just attend to our system. So starting on this side, we have most of our electrical system from Go Power. We have a 250 amp hour lithium battery, which hooks up to two 190 watt solar panels on the roof for a total of 380 watts of solar. Solar is our main way of charging the battery here, and we find that 250 amp hours is quite a lot for us. We really only use our electrical system to run our fridge, charge our phones and laptops, and then occasionally use our water heater for coffee or tea, things like that. I will say that when we use our Starlink, it does drain quite a lot of electricity, so we have to make sure that we have some way to recharge our battery pretty much every day when we're working for 8 hours a day using the Starlink. Up here you'll notice front and center that we have a on-off kill switch. This is our master kill switch, which will shut off the power for our entire electrical system. It's really nice to have this somewhere that's very accessible in case you have any kind of emergency or need to do work. You can make sure that all the electricity is totally shut off. From there you'll notice that we have our 12 volt DC fuse block. This is also very easy to get to so that you can change fuses and run extra wires if you decide to add things into your electrical system. Right behind this wall here is our 2000 watt Go Power inverter. This inverter works totally great for us. We love using it. It's been awesome whether we're running a blender or our electric water kettle. Can totally handle the amperage that we put through it, and we love it. Moving up top, we do have a solar charge controller. This is the solar charge controller itself. It looks a lot different than some of the other ones you may see. Behind that, we have a Renogy DC to DC 60 amp battery charger. That connects our bus's battery from the alternator to our house battery here. That allows us to charge the batteries while we're driving if it's cloudy out or we're parked under trees and our solar panels don't quite charge our battery all the way. We do have a third method of charging. This inverter is actually an inverter charger, so that means we can plug in our bus to shore power using just a normal extension cord into a normal outlet on a house. We don't really use that ever because we are hardly ever parked at a campground with electricity or at somebody's house. We tend to be out in nature or somewhere a little bit less on the grid. But it is nice to have as a last resort if you're going to be parked somewhere like a campground or at a house. We really think it's important to have all three different charging methods because there are so many times that you want to recharge your battery and one method may or may not work. You may not be driving very far one day, so having solar panels is very important. Likewise, you may not be in the sun every day, so having a charger from your vehicle is very important so that you can make sure your electricity bank stays full. We find that if you have all three charging methods, you can get away with a little bit less battery power because you don't have to worry about it running out, knowing that you can charge it so frequently and so fast. We have an AC breaker panel over here to make sure that our wires are protected. All of our wires on the system are rated for the amperage that goes through them. We also made sure that all of our DC wiring is fused appropriately. It's really important to make sure you follow all proper safety protocol with fusing and wire sizes. We adhered to that here. We really recommend that you do that yourself. The last thing, you probably noticed this big black tube. This is the hot air tube from our heater. It runs out of the way over here. Our heater is behind this wall over here. Again, it's a diesel heater. It's pretty cheap on Amazon. It works great. It is exhausted out through the floor, so we can run it at night without worrying about carbon monoxide poisoning. And we ran this tubing up here so that it could stay out of the way but get to the area that we want to actually heat up. The tubing that came with this unit was not very long, so we bought additional sections of this and clamped them together with additional connectors, which is how we ended up with this long tubing. And we put heat shield above it because, believe it or not, this gets very, very, very hot to the touch, and we didn't want that directly touching our wooden bed. While we're talking about safety and carbon monoxide, I do want to mention that we do have a propane and a carbon monoxide detector all in one unit. It's hardwired up by the kitchen, which is where our propane appliance is. And we do have a smoke alarm behind this tube right here, so that if anything goes wrong with this electrical system, we will wake up from that smoke alarm. Behind all this electrical stuff, this is a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, which is protecting our fresh water tank. Our 60-gallon fresh water tank is directly behind this. You can kind of see some of it right here, and our water pump and tubing all come out this side right here. 60 gallons of fresh water weighs quite a lot, and if you add that to our 30-gallon gray water tank, you could end up with quite a lot of weight in just water in our build. Because we have a dually school bus and it's rated up to 26,000 pounds, this is not really an issue for us, but make sure you're thinking about weight when it comes to your build, because every vehicle is a little bit different. A couple of last things to point out in our water system. We do have water shutoffs for almost everything in here. So I can shut off the water directly to the tank so that nothing could come out if I find there's a leak or something like that. I also have a ball valve that will allow the entire freshwater tank to drain completely out onto the ground. This is really useful when you're winterizing, or if you need to clean your water system. You have to kind of like bleach it a little bit and then run water through it, and you have to fill and drain it quite a lot of times. Because of that, it is really important to make sure you plan in some way to drain your fresh water tank. Otherwise, it's totally a pain in the butt. As you can see, we hooked all of our water lines and our electrical wires right to the bottom of the bed. We stapled them in. We tried to hold them all into place nicely, but using this open bed frame, it really allowed us to wire and plumb things easily without having to go around a whole lot of corners or through a lot of narrow compartments. Working with the big open space of a bus is a lot easier than building a small, tight van. Couple more things out here. Our 30-gallon gray water tank is mounted underneath the bus right here. We built an aluminum frame that goes around the entire thing, and we bolted that to the bottom of the bus. The gray water tank that we bought is technically a black water tank. It does have a 3-inch dump valve on it. We don't use it as a black water tank, only our dirty sink and shower water go down there. We do have a nice big 3-inch dump valve that you can kind of see right here. This allows us to very quickly dump and drain all of our water from the gray water tank. Highly recommend having such a big dump valve. It really helps with draining quickly. On all of our doors, we installed these barrel locks. We just got them from Home Depot. They're not very expensive, but you have to plan them very appropriately so that this portion lines up perfectly with this portion, and then you can control it either from the inside or the out with a key, allowing us to lock our back door, our side back door, and our front door all in the same way. This is what the front looks like. It's just a normal key lock. Now for my favorite part of the bus. On the back of the bus, we bolted on a 4-foot back deck that holds my motorcycle and allows us to deploy from the bus, go on some amazing motorcycle rides, or just run into town without having to lug this whole bus around. Again, this back deck sticks out 4 feet. It's the entire width of the bus. We used the original factory bumper and just added a couple of lights for safety. We bolted on 2 different 6-inch C-channel and then a couple of different pieces of square tube steel. That is more than strong enough to hold up this 450-pound motorcycle, plus me, plus whatever we want to put on here. It is super strong. And the bus, again, can handle so much weight that this has not really affected our driving ability at all. If you want to learn more about how we built this back deck, you can check it out in our video up here. This motorcycle is a 2009 Kawasaki 650. The model is an ER6N. It was only built for a few years, but I love it. It works for me and Jesse to get around in all of our exciting expeditions. We have a front wheel chock here from Harbor Freight, very cheap, easy to install. And then we added a couple of different attachment points where we could add these ratcheting tie-down straps to both the front and the rear, holding the bike in place while we drive so it doesn't bounce around or go anywhere. On this side, you'll see 2 folding ramps. I think these are 9 feet long, but we'll link them in the description below. They're made out of aluminum, so they're fairly light, but they are certainly strong enough to handle this motorcycle and myself as we walk up and load the motorcycle or unload it. We added a couple pieces of aluminum angle iron here through the ramp and then onto the deck here. This keeps it in place while we're driving, and then we added a couple of bungee cords just to keep things from rattling while we drive. These aluminum angle iron pieces are locked to the deck themselves so that nobody could just come over here and undo it and unload my motorcycle. You'll notice that the deck is quite high off the ground. If I'm standing in front of it, it's actually above my waist height. That's why we went with such long ramps, and even with that, we'll notice that sometimes it's quite a steep angle, which makes loading and unloading the motorcycle a little bit challenging, but we've definitely gotten used to it by now. Behind the motorcycle on this side, we have two 20-pound propane tanks, just like you would have for a normal house grill. The reason we have two is because the mount that we have kind of relies on having two to hold it down evenly. It's just like one of those screw-on, tightening it down things. But I will definitely say that if you don't have two, it's like angled and it doesn't really hold it down very well. Because we only use propane for our cooktop, one propane tank has lasted us well over 6 months. Honestly, we may never even have to use the second one, but for security, we don't want those propane tanks coming off. We also strapped them down to the mount itself. In case there was ever a failure, they would still be strapped onto the back deck. You'll see the propane tank goes not only underneath the bus up to the cooktop, but it does come right up here to our water heater. This is an EcoTemp water heater and it works extremely well. There are even some times where the water in the bus is a little warm and we have to turn it way down because it's almost too hot for our showers. With that being said, this is an outdoor unit, so we chose to mount it outside for safety. We didn't want to have any carbon monoxide or too much heat built up inside the bus. But we do have to say it's not really meant to be mounted permanently. It's more of a portable model that you're supposed to just hook up and use as you need it. For us, we knew that we were going to use it all the time. We'll make sure to winterize it before it freezes outside. And we did mount it permanently, but be aware, this model is not really supposed to be outside all the time. Last thing you're probably thinking is, Chris, there's a back door there. Can you even open it? The answer is a solid no, we cannot. Our propane tanks, the motorcycle, and the locking mechanism for our ramps all get in the way of the door, so we can't really open it. But because we have the other side door, we don't really think we're going to climb in front of it anyways. As we mentioned at the beginning of the bus, we do have a backup camera. You can see it installed way up there. This has been a total game changer for us to back up this huge rig, 32 whole feet while we're driving. This backup camera links to the front monitor via Bluetooth, so we don't even have to hardwire anything in between the two. It's off, that's it. Easy as that.
Chris just left his mess out, per usual.
Yeah, right.
So it took a lot of time to prep and paint this school bus, but we were really happy with how it turned out. We chose a mint green color. Chris wanted blue, I wanted green, so it was green. Our bus's name is Chip, as in mint chocolate chip ice cream. We had some crowdsourcing. A friend helped us name our school bus. We painted the whole bus ourselves. We used a spray gun, oil-based paint. We have a whole video showing you how to paint and prep your school bus. If you're interested, you can check it out up here. On the roof, we used a thicker sealant because school buses are prone to leaks, so we wanted to try to avoid leaks as much as possible. So now we're going to take a look at my favorite part of the bus, which is the roof deck. So follow me and we'll take you up there. Actually, before we go in, I do want to show you how our door locks from the outside. Let me grab this stuff really quick. So we have this long piece of angle iron. We did put some weatherproofing on the back of this so it wouldn't scratch the bus. Just close our door. We also installed L brackets on the outside of the bus. So we set this on the L brackets. We have 2 padlocks that we put on each side. We lock the actual door, obviously, but this angle iron really helps to keep the door secure in place. First, we need to grab our ladder, which we store right behind the driver's seat. We chose to have an extendable ladder instead of a permanently mounted ladder on the outside of our vehicle, so that other people can't be climbing on our roof when we're not around, and it's really no one can access it unless they come inside the vehicle. Come on in. So if you haven't seen a collapsible ladder like this before, it's pretty nifty. You just unhook the buckle. You start from the bottom and go up from there. And you can see it's locked in place then. You can press down and it doesn't collapse, the way to make it go back down is by pushing these two in, and it'll slowly go down by itself. We go through this sunroof to get on our roof deck. So as I showed you back there, you press it up. I'm a little short for this. And this little knob here, you press it and it unhinges, and then you push it open. I don't know why Chris didn't demonstrate this. All right. The bottom of this ladder it's pretty grippy, and so we find that this is plenty sturdy to go up and down. So come on up. Our roof deck is the full length of our school bus, so it's roughly 28 feet long. We love hanging out up here. It's a really good place just to hang out, watch the sunrise or sunset, have a cold beer, hang out with friends. We've had up to 8, maybe 9 people up here at a time, so tons and tons of space. We use pressure-treated wood for the entire roof deck. The supports are bolted all the way through the roof, and this thing is rock solid, so it's not going anywhere. Something we learned pretty quickly in van life and early on in our time in our van was that having a solid outdoor setup is really crucial. And for us, having a nice big roof deck is something that we always wanted, and so we made that a big priority for our school bus. So now, let's get Chris up here and we can relax and hang out for the evening.
Love. If you want to learn more about life on the road, some of our top travel destinations, or want to know how we built this bus, be sure to subscribe to our channel, check out our other videos, and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Again, thanks for watching. We appreciate you being here. We are Acrovan Adventures. We'll see you next time.
Video between the airhead composting tool.
Love our vacation.
And by having 3 legs, we have the ability to kind of fold the legs between each other, like this big mirror, so she could see herself and I can see myself. That's weird.
You're supposed to be coming.
So Jethy.
It's a wrap.